I'ma tell the truth cause I'm a black sheep. I'ma lead all my people up out that backseat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We tell a hater, yeah, 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 yeah. Sure.
Got price tags on my feet. Free 99. You hear me? I'm about to give you a game for a free 99. Free 99. Okay. Great day, brothers and sisters. My name is Justin.
And my name is Leah.
And we're with Wisdom Rich. We're going to break down today's times, the times that we are in, and the new language that is trying to really rebirth itself in human consciousness. So let's take a look. A lot of us have naturally been programmed because we've been schooled. If you look at etymology, education is just trained behavior. It doesn't necessarily mean that you know thyself. So in the information era, we are going through an information era, which means that people are seeking more of the answers. So
that's how I was. That's how I was. I was seeking more of the answers. Like, how am I going to school and not feeling prepared for the real life? Like, I graduated with my degree, and I didn't feel like I was ready. So it was like, okay, I went where I was comfortable right when I got out of school, which was working in like the food industry. So you just kind of sometimes with the programming of school, you go where you're comfortable or you want to take a risk.
And in comfort, usually the brain doesn't change its chemistry to really see both sides. So if we've been groomed to be a certain thing and we only go about that groomsmanship, we're actually fixated in a closed mind. So a lot of us are seeing now, like, COVID's here, my job is not here, or my business isn't here. So you're forced to think, so what truly matters? And what it is the well-being of other people as you find that in yourself. So as everybody comes to this higher self and well-being, the universe will vibrate differently. So in most cases, businesses were looking at how much money they could make versus how great can we give a service to a person, right? So in that sense, it's like, for example, college. They charge us almost a whole house, $150,000, $200,000, just depending on where you go and how long you go. That's a house payment. So then you get out of that to buy a house, that's almost $500,000 that you're already upside down. You're naturally operating off of the vibration of fear.
Like, I always think about, like, what if I didn't go to school? Like, what if I had the knowledge I have now, like, 10 years earlier, to not make the choice to go to school, to figure out more of who I was, to dig deeper within inside myself, to, like, have more of a solitude, because you're so young, you don't know.
Correct. And I would say, like, what made me find it earlier is I tried a lot of things when I was younger. Like, I started delivering papers at like 9 or 10 years old. So I figured this is where a little bit of the law got taught to me, and this is just through spirit. I would always deliver people's papers on time, and I was always just happy to be there. So the one time when I first started, it was like the first year going into the holidays, and a lot of people were giving me like envelopes with a lot of money. And I was just like, wow. And like some
like
of the messages,
for like
around Christmas, yeah. So like some of the messages were like, thank you for always having the paper on time. And some people would give me like a $50 bill, and I'm like, that's more than my check.
Right.
So I learned that it was more than just.
You're always gonna have givers in the world. You're always gonna have
Yes.
somebody that sees you to be like, wow, that kid's really out here. He's out here every morning delivering my paper in the cold. And then you're gonna have some people be like, wow, he's 5 minutes late, you know?
Right, and hold that against you for the rest of your life,
mentality.
right.
So then it's like you start to program yourself in like the way in which the world kind of programs you. So like they might look at you and be like, this young kid,
Right.
he can't get here on time, or like they'll get into like a race thing.
Correct. And that's
Stuff like
another
that.
thing with like, when you look at race, human is the race. There is no, it doesn't go no deeper than that. Like, you can make your mind up to think this certain thought about a certain thing, but when you get down to the real core of life, life is the essence of intelligence. So whatever human is vibrating closer to his origin, that human naturally wins. And I don't know how people try to constrict that truth. It's not about, she's a Browns fan, I'm a Steelers fan, let's go to tug of
It's like
war.
we're naturally, almost in a sense, in this world programmed to like compete. So then you're placed upon like, this skin tone is better, this team is better, I'm better because I'm older, I'm better. because I'm younger. And she's
and
like,
in competition, like she just said, you're looking for someone else's weakness. And right there, you're creating your own prejudice or racism, however you want to put the word.
It causes me anger. I remember,
Correct.
like, when I was in sports and stuff like that in high school and stuff, it was like I was getting my anger off through sports. Instead of being like, wow, why am I angry? Like, what is making me angry? So it was like I said, when I graduated college, it made me dig deeper into, like, how I was feeling. Why wasn't I getting the outcomes that I had really wanted? Or, like, what did I even really want? Because, like, I changed my major several times.
Right.
So it's like then when you graduate with something, it's still kind of like, do I really want to do this? Or then you start to do it, and then you realize you don't, like, love it.
And that's the thing, trial and error is something that we fear. We fear going maybe left to get back right. But in the sense of going left, you learn something about yourself, meaning I can go somewhere to an unknown place and still conquer, which gives you self-identity. It gives you the strength that unknown place was only unknown because everything new is unknown. Like a child, for example, it crawls to walk, to fall, to walk, and it does it until it gets it. But then it starts to run. By the time it's running, it's never even thinking about how it had to crawl to walk. See, we get too displaced on when we fail trying to learn how to walk as humans, so in our mind, we fear even trying to walk. So we stay crawling, where it's comfortable. And this pandemic that we're in is actually showing people two things. Are you going to keep leaning on something, or are you going to stand up straight within yourself? And as you find that self-power, then you can be a service to the next person. So whoever's watching this, if you guys do like what me and her are giving to you, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe, because the information that we're giving you guys is something that we had to together find. It wasn't
like
something...
self-discovery.
Yeah.
And then, like, together, we would always just, like, talk, like, I'm going through this. I mean, that's what's good about having other people in your life, is being able to, like, talk to each other to understand, okay, where are you coming from? Why are you feeling this way? A lot of times, like I said, it's people compete with each other of, like, I know more than you, and if we're not in this cohesive of knowingness, then let me be mad at you or let me shame you. And it's like everybody has their own process of growth too. So me and you sometimes, like, when we would disagree about something, we would go back and forth and then kind of, like, go our own separate ways.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, one of us would be like, I kind of see what you're talking about.
And that's the thing. You want to come from a heart space of love anytime you're offering a service. And that's where all the spiritual keys unlock. Like, say, for example, I started my first business in a smaller area, predominantly a certain race that I shouldn't be able to thrive off of if you look at programming, but I didn't see it like that. I looked at it as, if I do a great service for you, you have no other thing but to do, other than talk. You're going to talk. And that's how I naturally was vibrating as a child. I never looked at, my mom never raised me to look at certain people in a certain way. So in certain programs, my station of frequency just doesn't reference to the next man's frequency. Like, everybody gets in the car and has a certain station. So that's the same thing with the mindset. Like, certain people hang around people with that certain program, that station. But when we understand that there's only truly one station, which is love, truth, identity, like, you have to be able to reveal what you're saying, then we come to another state of being. So, for example, religion, for example, a lot of people confine to these different religions, and it goes back to Browns versus Steelers. Because if we can't sit here and comfortably talk about our ideologies, there's an discomfort because self-identity has not been discovered. I don't feel uncomfortable going into any setting, but I also can feel when uncomfortableness is trying to set in, because I'm one with myself. Like, I can feel tension. Animals do things because the environment. So we're naturally molded off of environment. So whoever your parent is, you're naturally trying to correct whatever language they got handed to them, or not even handed to them. They accept it because unconsciously, subconsciously, we've all been molded this identity that we didn't just go grab. It was already really being pushed to us. So when we can get that space during this COVID time and really see that, wow, a lot of the things that are happening in my life are because I'm thinking this, or something in my energy field is creating this, not blame Trump, blame Biden. No, because at that point, you're no longer present present with yourself. You're saying, let me take my head off and give it to Trump or Biden, and whatever they dictate, that's going to make me feel how I feel. At that point, you've lost all control of yourself. So it's the same thing with school. Like when I went to school, I don't know how she was going to school, but I was learning business, and the business teacher told me I've never owned a business. Like she's never ran a business herself, but I'm getting business advice off of her. And I'm not to be funny because I don't like to constrict people in what they do, but I would learn a lot more if I just went directly to a business. And we'll say I started as an employee. I stayed there for 4 years. I then became a manager, and I get closer to maybe the owner. That's common sense to learn business versus sitting in a class and being told.
But I think most people, like what you're going off of is most people learn by doing.
Yes.
Most people learn by doing.
Show
like,
and tell.
You can sit and like read. It's kind of like making like a bookshelf. Like you get
Correct.
the instructions and you're like, okay, you read over it, but that doesn't mean you like know exactly how to build the bookshelf. Like you now kind of have like a rough draft blueprint, and it's like, okay, now I have to put this together. But what you were talking about when you first started your business, and you, like when I met you at 20, you had a mindset to be like, nothing is going to stop me. So I'm like, that's kind of interesting, because I mean, the majority of people don't really think that way.
Right.
So when I had met you, and like you said, predominantly white area, and you're black, so to have a business, it's like you had to have that mindset. Like you couldn't look at it as like, oh, I don't know, I don't really want to do, like you were cleaning cars. So I don't really want to clean this car because she is looking at me at a certain way, or is she racist, or is she scared that I'm young and in business? You were just like, hey, I do an excellent job, I know what I'm doing, and if I don't, I will be here to perfect it or make it better and work with you. So it always like amazes me that you were like that, because like most people aren't like that. So that's why you thrive.
Right.
So a lot of times, I've known you for 10 years now, I've seen you talk to so many people, and they'll use like a race card or an age card or a sex card. Well, I can't do this because of this. And I'm always like, well, hey, he's a prime example of somebody that's never really thought like that and got to where you needed to go to self-sustain for yourself.
Right. And thank you for that. Like, and a unique trait that she held was accountability. Like, and when I met her, I told her, I said, if you pay attention to your life, this guy has you running the business, closing the business, bringing him the money. At that point, what I see is you're the boss. And her brain kind of like, wow, you're dead on. So she started to try small things, like a cookie company that she had a good success in. She started to try my words to see that I'm not just blowing smoke. Like, I could see that you have enough self-dignity and loyalty towards yourself that anything that you want, you'll thrive at, because that's the core value of life. When things are sincere, we feel that. When things are insincere, we feel that. And if I'm incorrect, certain people who have animals, their dogs don't get weird towards certain people unless they feel something. That's an intention that everything in the room that is present can feel, and most animals are very present in their senses of now. So if they smell something, they're there now. Like, they're in the now, and that's where the world is getting us back to, is being in the present now, not your debts, not your stresses. Because as you can't sit here now, that is not twisting your arm. You're giving debt the power to think that it can twist your arm.
You're focused on it to grow. You're almost like you're watering it. You're like, okay,
as we
this
keep
bill
thinking,
is coming.
yeah,
like,
man,
you already know it's coming.
COVID,
so if you focus on what is it that I have to do? Like, you always said, like, trying. People a lot of times, they think that it has to be this, like, golden moment of, this. They want to put a category on it. So it's like, when you like go down in a grocery store and you see like the bread aisle, it's like, okay, you know what bread is there. People want this label on themselves, like, I'm a doctor, I'm a scientist, I work here. And it's like, okay, maybe you like to clean. Right. So you start like cleaning buildings. You're like, okay, I like this, but maybe actually I'm more into the chemicals. So then you want to seek more of like, how do I make these own chemicals, or how do I make them not as harsh? Right. So it's all with trying. You don't have to know. It doesn't have to be this like label. And
that goes back into faith. You are already all knowing, and that's the core that should be taught in school. Is first off, what is your origin? And that's where you take science and philosophy, and that's where you get the chemistry. It's like, when you look at the Jesus story, you also have to have the female story, because as a man releases something, so does a woman. So we'll say Jesus being the essence of substance. Okay, so we'll look at atoms. This is an atom, and this is a molecule. So we'll say this atom, like if you look at star space, it's always like the sperm going into the egg. Like we've all seen this on the internet, like a little, I'm the sperm and this is like the egg. That's us on a micro level. Like that's real life. So me and her clashing together creates our image. So that's what the scripture's saying. I made you in my image. But
it's
like telling,
when you look, is it like when they always say like an asteroid hitting Earth?
Exactly, that's where stars colliding on a smaller world. But the goal is to perfect yourself back to that bigger cosmos, because in time we are stuck in a body. So everything that you can do, this is what's happening within you. Like you're really stuck inside of a space of dream, and you can never leave this dream. But you can perfect yourself to be high enough away from dis-ease and discomfort. So I feel like life is here for us to gain this inner balance of knowing our yin and our yang. So certain situations don't pull us. It's just you balance with them. Almost like what Bruce Lee said, be like water. So it's just you're flowing. Not COVID's here, so if I don't have a mask, I'm going to get sick and die. If you think that that's the case, you've allowed that entity. You've opened up the portal in yourself of sickness to say that that can happen. But if you're not thinking on that frequency, because you understand that a virus is just nothing but you doing a lot of lower level things and eventually getting sick. So eating too much food, watching too much negativity, doing too much negativity, them are all the sacrams that open up the virus portal. So as long as we know what we're playing with, we should know what we're getting. So a lot of people who are feeling a lot of heaviness in their heart, you have to self-reflect to ask yourself, where are you being heavy in the world? Because you're only getting what you're throwing. The universe is really, like I said, it's a body. But you call upon whatever you want in this body. For example, Justin, raise your arm. Raise your other arm. Justin, wink your eye. Like, I called upon all of that. And it's no different than thinking. That's why we can all feel each other and read each other's mind. He thinks that was a weird thought that he had. I seen how he looked at me.
No, we can all go there if we really wanted to.
Correct.
We could all sit here and be like, I could be like, well, this is why this is like this, or this is why this is like this, or I feel bad for this, or this was your history, or this was your history.
Right.
And it's just, we could all do that.
And this goes into when you have to be careful when you're teaching somebody. If I'm teaching you history, and the history isn't to propel you to the now or towards your betterness of what you want, the story shouldn't really be told to you. If my child is saying, Dad, I like to ride bikes, I like to ride skateboards, okay, cool. So we have to have the main ingredients, science, math, philosophy. All of that has to be downloaded into a kid for a kid to be moral. And then naturally, with his other schooling is what he loves. That should be a part of his schooling, because that's his identity, that he's saying, hey, Mom or Dad, I want to identify with this character. So schools don't teach you none of that. So we get to about 18 and we've never identified with this character that we naturally were supposed to identify with.
I would try to find an interest in school. Like I'd be like, okay, well, I like numbers, I'm good at math, let me identify with this, and kind of like block everything else out. It's like some people were like that.
She's very good at numbers.
And some people were like, okay, well, let me identify with English because I like to read. But it's like, there's so much more that can just come out of that, of who you are.
Right. So I would say that the complication is really in the mind, and where the mind isn't finding that, you are the source, believe it or not, or goddess, or God, however you want to label it. You are the source of life. And although you're in a certain position at this moment, you have to remember that the moment that you're in, you've thought to this process that you're in. So as long as you figure out the new process, and then you go get the blueprints it's like building a house. First, we need to get our groundation. That's why I'm learning how to sit more Indian style and relax. The groundation, because I'm up top, I got that. My biggest thing was never slowing down to stay still for what I got to get built. So it's like I would put 9 pieces down on a house and run over there, try to buy that house, put 9 pieces down over there, and at the end of the day, I don't got a house built. So now I'm learning to sit still with everything that I already have built, so then it can come instead of, the guy bringing the siding. He's outside, but I'm going over here trying to do this so he can't drop off the siding. And what it is I'm missing my own blessing. So I've learned that in my problems in life is I picked up this hustle ability to really bypass myself. So even in hustling, that's a trick too. It's going to get you to keep going and going and going and going and going and going until what? So if you sit down, the true hustle is having oneness with yourself. So if you can feel one with yourself, I don't care where you go.
We're so limitless. As people, we're such limitless. And so I think like what you just said is like, yo, hustle, hustle, hustle till when? It's like you have to know when to stop yourself in anything that you're doing.
Correct.
To take like another step in life.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember when we went to go get the cleaners, like I was over here thinking like, oh, I wanted to run a coffee shop. I was working in a coffee shop. My mom was like, okay, I see my future more in like this industry. And then you come with a completely other idea, but it was like I would be taking all of my strengths over here and still using them over here.
Correct.
So like I had to find like a mind flexibility to be like, okay, cool, over here, instead of being like so strict in the mind to be like, no, this is what it is. So like let go of this.
Right.
To come over here to gain something over here, and then flourish that to be like, okay, well, hey, not this, let me keep moving.
And that's the secret.
It's not like bumping your head and being like a negative thing to be like, oh, I had to leave this because of this, or this wasn't working out. It's like you have to tell yourself, okay, this is when I need to move.
Right. And you'll feel it. It's like sometimes you have to lose something to gain something. And it's not sometimes. Like a baby has to lose the falling to gain the walking. Then it has to master the walking to get to the running without falling. Like this is all a process. But
and patience.
Yes, and that's the thing that we're at. We're at the patience with ourselves to be able to then show that to the world. So then the world as a unity catches up. Like a lot of people look at love as like, she's mine. No, that's controlling. Love is I'm able to vibrate my wholesome self for her to be able to connect and be able to build off of that type of energy and vice versa. So if I'm only 40% loving, she has 60% control because then I'm going to put all of my insecurities onto her, right? And it's vice versa. But if I have 65 and she has 65 or any type of number, but we're still building self, like togetherness, we enjoy, but then, I am this type of individual and I'm this type of individual, but together we can still be our own individual in unity. And a lot of people don't have that type of love. They have the, I hooked you, I reeled you in, and if you try to swim back out in life, you're wrong. And that's where it's crippling the natural spirit, because spirit only wants to express and expand, and how we express and expand is off of learning things off of one another or off of situations. So in life, a lot of people are afraid because of some program they said, yeah, that's true, without really identifying true essence of truth. Like we feel when we're constricted, but a lot of people have been constricted for so long they snap or they void with certain type of drugs. And where we're at right now is people are being sent home. So then when you're sent, you have to deal with yourself. There's a silence that a lot of people can't sit down and just endure. They have to be, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because the mind isn't at ease.
It's like a fast pace.
Yeah, so you're running past your God and your instincts and your feelings and your dreams and all of this stuff that really could come to you. It's like, this is your dream trying to come and you're just
dancing around.
Yeah, you're running from it and then you're like, I don't believe in nothing, ain't nothing real. You haven't even sat down to believe that real has to come to you as you come to you. Like, this is a you thing. I know certain things are real because I've come to myself enough to slow down to say, okay, there's a life outside in the world, there's 5 senses, and then there's a 6th sense in which I have to use common sense using these 5 senses so then I stay balanced, my yin and my yang. If I don't use my 6th sense and say, you know what, Burger King every day, what's going to naturally happen? I'm going to lose my 6th senses because I'm flooding too much on one sense. That's why they say yin and yang has to be balanced. So Burger King when I want to eat Burger King, but not every day.
It's like not getting stuck on one thing and being like, well, I'm a vegan, so I only, like, it's okay not to eat meat, but you don't have to be, like, so strict. It's like we're so strict with everything. Like, we take everything way too serious.
Self-racist,
It's not that serious. Like, you don't have to be that hard on yourself.
Like, you see how she's trying to bring her leg over here? I can really hit the pop-up. I can really hit the pop-up blocker, you know. But I ain't even going to let her do that. She thinks she, you know what I'm saying, you're getting comfortable trying to... But that's what love is about. Love is about being able to be comfortable with anything, anybody around you. And as the world has to find this, is coming. There's no way you can stop the intelligence.
It's like a curiosity too. Like I had seen myself early on, and it was like I would start to venture off into like, because I was raised Roman Catholic, so I would venture off into like, I remember going to like a temple one time. I would go to like Baptist church with other people just because like I'm curious. I want to see what it is. You have to go. You have to be curious.
And I've done the same thing. I feel like everything in life, there's always going to be something that gets you going. And when 98% of the people are programmed to be afraid of self, the fear is what gets us going. So when you look at certain sounds of music, it's like the more ruthless and evil that you can talk, the more money you'll make. You have to slow yourself down and ask, why? Well, that's to tell you that we're programmed negative. So, Justin, if you make a song like this, right? Yeah, but I'm also going to get a response like this. You know, you talk all that crazy mess, you're going to meet it. Because like I just told you, the universe is real. Like, you can't just woo.
Well, music will sway you.
Exactly.
Like, if I listen to an R&B lovey-dovey song,
then
like,
all of a sudden, look, Leah getting all close to her brother.
If I go listen to, like, a trap song, I'm like, wait a second.
That's why
I need to go cook dinner.
Right. And I'm not saying that music is, you know, don't listen to it.
Well, it will sway your mood.
But what a balance of it. Yeah, like you can't all the time drink and then listen to a feeling and then think that your emotions aren't going to be woken, because sound is the creating of action. So if you knew certain sounds in your mind aren't creating a certain action that you want in your life, you would stop listening to that.
Facts.
So certain people who are afraid, and I'm looking to go jump or go skydiving, well, I wouldn't go ask a man who's afraid of heights, because he's going to fixate my mind and tell me his frequency is against the frequency that I'm seeking. And I might not seek, because the way he's really breaking it down from his perception of fear, which fear has a true way. And if it wasn't true, why do you believe you're afraid and you don't do things that you believe you're afraid of?
I remember growing up, we're talking about music, I remember listening to like a lot of like relationship fallout songs seem to be like really popular. Like so-and-so's mad at their boyfriend, or this guy's mad at this girl, and it's just like a cry kind of line. And it's like, I always understand that everybody needs to express themselves, everybody needs to talk about what they go through. But on such big of a level, it's like you're kind of programming that outcome of yourself always
by watching it.
Thinking about, okay, let me think about this song. Oh, yeah, and you're putting yourself in this vibration. You're singing like with it.
The Real Housewives, the Kardashians, it's programming every relationship to follow the code.
It's just what you're watching.
Yep.
It's what you're watching.
It's
so then people are like,
yes.
well, why am I getting these outcomes? And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you doing?
You're feeding your essence. Like your essence is likened to an onion seed or a tomato seed or, you know, a pine tree seed. Like all of this is thoughts now. See, we're open as a vessel. We take in all seeds and we can take them and grow them, think of them, make them happen. That's the type of entity we are. So you do have to be very careful about what you're watching, depending on the result that you want. Like, I'm not telling anybody to not watch something. I'm telling you that when you're watching something or engaging in something, that something is then taking code upon you. There's no way around it.
Be mindful.
Exactly. So
and hold responsibility and accountability.
And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. Put some comments in there about some topics or something that you guys want us to talk about, because this is just a piece of a little bit of information that me and her have acquired through, you know, cause and effect. Because I did this, it affected her in this way, or because she did this, it affected me this way. But we came to an ingredient of peace and love. So there's understanding of, well, this is your walk of life and this is my walk of life, but together we're still on the concrete. So we have to figure out how we can both still walk on this concrete, because that's what life is really about. It's about bumping into people on this path and gaining more for yourself. So I don't have a constricted way to believe about things. I have a way of being open. So certain things she does, she learns off of it. Certain things I do, I learn off of it. But it's not to say, well, you're not doing this for me, or that doesn't serve me. Everybody's here to serve them, and then that serves the us.
I'ma tell the truth cause I'm a black sheep. I'ma lead all my people up out that backseat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We tell a hater, yeah, 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 yeah. Church, yeah. Started as a youngin', I was in my business. COVID came through, knocked the youngin' off his pivot. But I still grindin', it's still mine, and I'ma kill mine with this still mine. And on real time, I'm on real time, and ain't anything I want, I'ma kill mine. Niggas tryna hate me for my energy, whoa. Devil always lurking, want that energy. But it's still mine and it's still mine. I'ma kill mine and I'ma build mine, but it's ill mine. I make that beat like ill mine, whoa, whoa. I'ma tell the truth cause I'm a black sheep. I'ma lead all my people up out that backseat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We tell a hater, yeah, 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 yeah. Started from that bottom, I had no motivation. Pop's gone, mom's gone, had to study meditation.
Today we are here to sip our tea. Tea. Justin is an intuitive gangster. He is one.
So is her mama. She's an intuitive gangster too.
He came off the spaceship 59124. You can locate that.
She giving him social security numbers. You better quit playing with her. She just gave y'all my social.